Getting older is a journey that comes with a lot of valuable lessons that can be learned along the way. These lessons can be learned as you go through the process. There is a possibility that as we get older, we will not be ready to accept the lessons that life has to offer us. The realization that things that we used to take for granted, such as our physical strength, our health, and our relationships, become more significant as we get older is one of these things. The relationships that we have with one another are another thing that we used to take for granted. Every senior citizen needs to learn 8 difficult but necessary lessons in order to live their life with dignity, calm, and respect for oneself. These lessons are crucial for elderly citizens to gain. Each and every senior adult should make it a priority to acquire these lessons. We are going to examine and talk about these teachings in the video that we are going to watch today after we have finished watching it. Wisdom is something that is bestowed upon those individuals who are willing to pay attention to it and gain knowledge from it when it is bestowed upon them. This is true despite the fact that the people on whom we rely may not always be there. The body that we once trusted may begin to slow down, and the world around us may not always treat us with the respect that we believe we deserve. The realization of these realities, despite the fact that they may be unpleasant, is vital in order to lead a life that is devoid of regret, disappointment, and suffering that is not absolutely required. I say this in spite of the fact that it might be upsetting to some people. If you start to come to terms with your latter years at a younger age, you will boost the probability that you will be able to change those years into years of freedom, acquiring not only comprehension but also a feeling or experience. Having the expectation that your children will care about you after you have passed away is not something that you should have, and this is an important point to keep in mind. From the very beginning, I would like to make this point crystal clear. One of the most discouraging elements of getting older is the understanding that you will have to confront the potential that the love and care that you have offered to your children might not be returned to you. Nevertheless, despite the fact that there are a great number of elderly parents who are under the impression that their children will pay them frequent visits, take care of them, or even provide financial support, the fact of the matter is that your children have their own life, duties, and issues that they must deal with. Your health is your actual wealth, and you should do everything in your abilities to safeguard it. This is the second point you should have in mind, and it is something you should do. Although there are children who care passionately about you and will offer you assistance, there are also youngsters who may get disconnected, become preoccupied, or even ignore you owing to their lack of interest in you. This is even though there are children who will supply you with aid. Even if this is discouraging, the most efficient technique for avoiding disappointment is to stop anticipating and instead begin planning. This is the most efficient technique. Using this approach is the most efficient method. If you decide to pursue this course of action, you will be able to maintain your independence, guarantee the security of your financial condition, and establish a way of life that does not rely exclusively on the presence or support of your children. All of these benefits will be available to you if you choose to pursue this course of action. When you were younger, it was simple to swiftly overcome erroneous judgments about your health. But in today's world, every bad behavior comes with a price tag. It used to be able to quickly overcome decisions that were adverse to one's health. This was possible in the past. Because getting older causes the body to progressively become weaker, and because it is extremely difficult to recoup abilities that have been lost, you should place the utmost focus on maintaining your physical strength and mental clarity in good shape. This is necessary because it is extremely difficult to regain abilities that have been lost. One of the most important things you should concentrate on is ensuring that your thoughts are clear and that your body is strong constantly. If you want to maintain a healthy lifestyle, it is essential that you make sure that you consume meals that are abundant in nutrients and that you engage in physical exercise on a consistent basis, even if it is only a short walk. In the event that you are experiencing feelings of exhaustion, it is essential to ensure that you obtain sufficient rest and that you consume a great deal of water. Due to the fact that it is the primary factor in determining the quality of your life, you ought to consider your health to be the most valuable asset that you possess. In other words, your health is the third most important asset, which means that it is the third most essential asset. In addition, your health is the third most important asset that you have in your possession. The performance of routine inspections is not a choice. Rather, it is a requirement that must be fulfilled. Routine inspections are a necessity that must be performed. At the same time, as it is difficult to make any kind of compromise, the ability to be financially independent is something that cannot be compromised in any manner. It is a widely held view that the ability to be financially independent is based upon one's ownership of sufficient financial resources. This belief is particularly prevalent in the United States. If you do not have your own savings, pension, or investments, you run the risk of becoming dependent on other people, which can lead to feelings of irritation, resentment, or even abuse. This becomes especially important as you become older since you run the risk of becoming dependent on other people. If you do not have access to these advantages, you run the risk of being reliant on the assistance of other individuals. In the event that you do not find yourself in possession of these items, you face the risk of being dependent on the aid of other people. In the case that you are still bringing in money, you should design a plan and make investments in a manner that is not only feasible, but also aspirational with regard to your goal. It is essential to maintain a responsible financial management strategy and to continue living within your means once you have reached retirement age. On account of this, you will be able to avoid spending more money than you are able to afford to maintain yourself. Although members of your family have assured you that they would bring you back, you should proceed with utmost caution when handing them money. This is because they have given you their word that they will bring you back. As a result of their tendency to be overly giving, a sizable proportion of elderly individuals experience exhaustion on both a physical and an emotional level. This is a direct conclusion that can be drawn from their desire to be extravagant with their charitable giving. Because of this, you should not give up control of your life because it is essential to maintain control over your life in order to achieve financial independence. It is important that you have control over your life. When it was ranked 4th overall, the experience of being by oneself is something that cannot be managed or avoided in any way. Considering that the average age of the people in our social circles is continuing to climb, it is vitally necessary to acquire the skills necessary to become one's own best friend. This is a necessity that cannot be avoided. Several friends who have been shrinks for a considerable amount of time have passed away. Because they lead such hectic lives, it is possible that members of our family on whom we once relied might not always be available. This is something that we take into consideration. In light of this, we ought to be ready for anything that may come our way. When this is taken into consideration, we ought to be prepared for everything that may come our way. Despite the fact that loneliness is a truth, there is a choice that can be made regarding whether or not to experience loneliness. This choice can be made in spite of the fact that loneliness indeed exists. You should make an effort to make the most of the time that you have available to you rather than focusing on the people who are not present. This will allow you to make the most of the time that you have. Participating in pursuits that you are enthusiastic about while simultaneously broadening your knowledge base is not an impossible task. If you are able to do so, you should either go on a trip or join a community group. Both of these options are good choices. The two choices shown here come with a strong recommendation. One of the most important things you can do for yourself is to concentrate on acquiring the ability to relax when you are by yourself. This is the single most important thing you can do for yourself. Your relationship with yourself is the most powerful relationship you will ever have in your life. Do not underestimate its significance. The relationship that you have with yourself is what it describes. When you quit attempting to win the approval of other people, you will discover that others will approach you with a lack of respect in many different societies. This is something that varies from society to society. Something like this is going to be revealed to you. It is not unusual for younger people to be valued more than those with more years of experience in today's workplace, which is characterized by its rapid pace and rapidly advancing technical capabilities. In times past, elderly people were held in high regard for their expertise. However, in the present day and age, younger people are accorded more respect than those who have been in the workforce for a longer period of time. When compared to the former circumstance, this is a major change. Because it is not worth your effort to demonstrate that you are deserving of someone's appreciation, you should not waste your time trying to prove yourself to someone who does not appreciate you that you are worthy of their respect. One of the most disconcerting aspects of the issue is the fact that this is the case. There is a possibility that you have noticed that some younger people do not pay attention to your thoughts, or that they perceive you to be out of touch with contemporary culture. Both of these observations are interesting. There is a possibility that you have already had the chance to witness anything like this. Keep in mind that it is of the utmost importance to always keep in mind the value of exhibiting respect, speaking in an intelligent manner, and most importantly, avoiding those folks who do not take joy in your company. Position 6th overall in the lists of competitors. Gain control of the feelings of resentment that you are experiencing. If you have a taste in your mouth that is slightly bitter, then and only then will you have feelings of nausea and vomiting. A substantial population of older individuals are holding resentments, betrayals, and arguments that they have not been able to overcome on their own. These people are unable to resolve these issues on their own. On the other hand, you ought to give careful attention to the question of whether or not suppressing your anger is beneficial to your healing process, or whether or not it enables you to reclaim time that you have lost. Bitterness, on the other hand, is a harmful emotion that will wipe out both your happiness and your energy. Either one of these things will be destroyed by it. Because no one else will love you, the first and most important thing you should do is love yourself. That is the only thing that will ever love you. To be more specific, this is the 8th significant factor to take into consideration. The reality is that you are the only person who will be with yourself until the very end, which means that your happiness will be ensured. This is the only person who will be with you until the very end. This is the case in spite of the fact that the process of aging can frequently give the impression of being a journey that is done by the individual themselves. On the other hand, you should forgive people who have wronged you in the past. However, you should do it not for the sake of those persons, but rather for the benefit of your own mental health. You should show forgiveness to those who have harmed you in the past. Presenting yourself with the gift of tranquility is the most priceless present you can give yourself at this point in your life. Imagine that you are giving yourself the gift of tranquility. It is important that you make the preservation of your physical health and the preservation of your mental tranquility the primary goals that you work toward achieving over time. I would like to respectfully beg that you treat yourself with love and respect, that you abstain from placing the requirements of other people ahead of your own, and that you make it a top priority to strive toward obtaining your own happiness. It is not reasonable to believe that other people will prioritize your health if you do not make it a priority for yourself to take care of your own health. Due to the fact that one is responsible for their own health, this conclusion is reached. When they are in their older years, there are a lot of people who spend their time either ruminating on the past or worrying about the future. This is a common behavior. You are only able to experience the moment that you are experiencing right now, which is the only thing you have. The past is no longer present, and the future is unknown. The only thing you have is the time that you are experiencing right now. Taking this into consideration, it is of the utmost significance to concentrate on the here and now, as it is impossible to tell for certain what the future will bring. Always remembering the necessity of expressing thankfulness and finding pleasure in the modest delights that life continues to deliver is something that is absolutely necessary to keep in mind at all times. In addition to the delectable meals that are included in the event, participants will also have the opportunity to breathe in healthier air and engage in in-depth conversations. Living your life to the fullest, loving with all of your heart, and appreciating each and every day is something that you should do because life is a journey. Every moment is a gift, and growing older is a privilege that very few people get to experience. You should do these things because you should appreciate these things. For the reasons that were discussed before, you should prioritize making the most of each and every moment that you have in your life. On the other hand, this privilege comes with a significant amount of duty, which includes the expectation that you will take care of yourself, that you will maintain your peace, and that you will use good judgment in your day-to-day life. Also included in this responsibility is the expectation that you will retain your peace. It is likely that as you become older, you will come to realize that you are going through different phases of your life in which you are experiencing feelings of loneliness, betrayal, disappointment, or regret. This is something that you may find. This is because becoming older is not necessarily a straightforward process. This is the reason for this realization. In contrast, letting these difficulties consume you is the most significant mistake that you could ever make against yourself. It is the mistake that you should avoid at all costs. It is imperative that you accept responsibility for determining the years that are to come from this point forward, despite the fact that you are not helpless, forgotten, or merely waiting for something to take place. Always keep in mind that as you get older, you are not only becoming older, but you are also becoming a more assertive and self-aware version of yourself. This is something you should never forget. Note that this is something that you ought to keep in mind. It is important to keep in mind that this is something that you should keep in mind. Take into consideration the information that has been presented to you. For you, the most significant asset you own is the realization that comes with advancing years because it helps you to comprehend life for what it truly is. Further, the knowledge that you are the most precious asset is the reason why you are the most valuable asset. On the other hand, once you have come to terms with this reality, you will stop chasing after individuals who do not appreciate you. You will stop harboring regrets, and you will let go of the hope that the world will do things for you that would bring you happiness. It would be greatly appreciated if you could pass this word on to someone who could benefit from hearing it. If you feel that this message speaks to you, please feel free to forward it to them. Thank you in advance for taking into consideration my request. Until the next time we get together, you might want to think about setting up a subscription so that you can receive further helpful life lessons. Considering doing so is something you should think about doing if you thought these words to be illuminating. Regardless of how old you are, you should never let your age prevent you from having a sense of purpose, that you safeguard your tranquility, that you respect your time, and that you live your life with dignity. The value of each and every one of these objects cannot be overstated. The possession of attributes such as strength, wisdom, and a sense of purpose should continue to be the defining characteristics of your existence.